Verizon, you're looking good. Hey guys, Matt here. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. It really helps out the channel a lot. So let's talk about Verizon. Now I know I'll make a lot of videos on AT&T, and yeah, I'm still bullish on AT&T. Ain't shit changed, but I also like Verizon. For one, I'm a Verizon customer. I've been a Verizon customer for 15 years, and I know this is anecdotal, but I haven't had any major problems with the company. So I do like Verizon as a customer. But I've been looking into Verizon recently, this past month or so, maybe as a dividend stock, probably a value dividend stock. And I gotta say, I'm pretty intrigued. So I probably don't have to explain to you guys who Verizon is, but let's go over it anyway, just so we're all on the same page. So Verizon has a consumer-facing section and a business-facing section. The consumer-facing section pretty much has what you expect. They have a wireless service, a nationwide wireless service that services all of their mobile customers, mobile devices. They also have a 100% fiber optic network, and they also have a traditional copper-based network, their copper-based broadband network. Their business-facing section does the same thing, wireless, fiber optics, networking solutions, just facing business customers. As you get into each section, you'll realize it's more complicated than that, but that's a general overview of what Verizon does. That's their business model. So right now, Verizon is trading at $55.63. Now, just to be clear, over the course of this video, I will do some comparisons between Verizon and AT&T, and that's because they're competitors. But it's not like I think that one company is going to win and one company is going to lose. It is my opinion that both companies are going to succeed over the long term. So I ain't mad at either one of them. That's why I feel comfortable talking about both and maybe holding both. Verizon's forward dividend yield, that's what's got me hyped. Right now we are looking at a 4.5% dividend yield, which is not bad at all, to say the least. Now, it is roughly in the middle of its 52-week range, but take a look at these statistics. We'll look at the financials in a second, but their forward PE, that's looking really, really good. Their PEG ratio is, it's nothing to write home about, but I'm not buying Verizon for growth. I am buying Verizon for a dividend stock and a stock that I think is undervalued. Looking at this forward PE, 11.04, that is very attractive. Maybe not as attractive as AT&T's, but again, looking really good. The other numbers, price of sales, price of book, enterprise value, like all these are looking pretty good as far as their current values go. So if I think that Verizon is a go, I think that by most of these valuations, this is a great price to go in on. It's got a current payout ratio of 57.79%, which is really, really good. Looking at their dividend history, they have been raising their dividend consistently, which is a little more that I can say about AT&T right now. Although AT&T is not out of their woods, AT&T has not raised their dividends yet. Verizon raised their dividends in October of last year, so we're still good on that for now. And if we take a look at the Seek and Alpha, Verizon's been raising their dividends for 8 years. It's not quite AT&T's level, but 8 years is pretty consistent. As far as revenue growth, we are seeing moderate but consistent revenue growth. It's not going to 10x anytime soon, but it's a company that's already established, so I'm not expecting huge growth over the long term. It's a company that has pretty much already grown, but again, that's not why I'm here. Their bottom line is raising as well. Now, this year they did drop in both total revenue and net income, but that's not something I can be mad at because 2020, the virus situation has been hell for almost every company, and so I can't be mad at Verizon at all. All right, now let's get to the balance sheet, and this is where my problem is. This is my major risk. Their debt. Assets and liabilities, to get more assets and liabilities, not too bad. It's not as quite as attractive a discrepancy as AT&T's, but fair enough. But their debt, their debt is shooting up. Now, it's not as bad as AT&T's debt. However, Verizon is going the wrong way. It is definitely going the wrong way with Verizon's debt. Verizon and AT&T like to compete on lots of different fronts, and apparently one of those fronts is how much debt they can rack up. Their debt to equity ratio it's a little ridiculous. Take cash, they only have $22 billion in cash. That's nowhere close enough to pay all that out. And if you take a look at their equity, which would have been their saving grace, they have over over 200% debt to equity ratio. That is horrible. I mean, as long as the business is doing well, like as long as the profits are coming in, and as long as the cash flow is coming in, they're fine. However, once they start having a bad year, that becomes a problem, especially if you're in this for dividends. Like, this is going to become a problem. And on top of that, since those earnings, Verizon spent more than $45 billion. Now, I don't know if they took out all that in debt or not, or how much of that is debt, whatever, but Verizon took out a shit ton more debt to bid on a 5G auction. So, you take this, you add as much as this to the debt. They spent a lot of money on debt, so now their debt's even worse. However, I'll be the first to tell you, just like I did with the AT&T video, that this 5G spectrum C-band auction is a really big deal. To put things very, very, very simply, the companies that win this auction are the ones that win the most amount of bandwidth will potentially have the best 5G network on the long term. Now, this gamble has paid off. And this is one of the reasons why I believe in Verizon and AT&T for possible growth potential over the years, even though I'm primarily in them for the dividends. Verizon won the spectrum worth $45.45 billion in a C-band auction to build itself a nationwide footprint of mid-band airways for 5G. That sum is nearly double the amount spent by the second highest bidder, AT&T. Now, I've already talked about this on the AT&T side, but AT&T won the second largest amount of bandwidth, so they're going to have a kick-ass 5G network if they build it out correctly. But Verizon has the opportunity, if it builds it out correctly, it has the potential to have the biggest 5G network, the best 5G network in the country. And as a Verizon customer, I can't really be mad about that. And another thing is that Verizon is actually taking steps, because Verizon is painfully aware of its debt. It's actually doing things to try to take care of that. And they have launched a $25 billion bond sale to pay for the 5G spectrum. And from what I read, there's actually a lot of positive response to this. So this $25 billion bond deal is probably going to work, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. According to Anna's expectations, now we never take these as gospel, but it's nice to see an average of opinions. They're supposed to have a mild increase of EPS, mild increase next year, mild increase. And for a value play, a non-10xer, that's fine by me. Mild growth next year, 3.14% estimated growth over the next 5 years. Roughly the same as AT&T, however, Verizon's earnings potential is rated much higher, so that is something to keep a watch on. As a matter of fact, I mean, I'm not going to show you this because this is a Verizon video, but AT&T did end this year at a loss as opposed to Verizon, so keep that in mind. And AT&T, the next 5 years, 1.36% average growth. Now, as far as Verizon versus AT&T, I don't really care about that too much. Like, like I said in the beginning, it's one of those competitions that I think both companies are going to win in their own regards. I mean, AT&T has its hands in more things, such as the award and media stuff and other things, so it has room to grow in that aspect. Verizon's more focused, it has more room to grow in that aspect. So I think both companies are going to win in some regard, and it might be worth picking up Verizon, if nothing else, to hedge my bets in case that AT&T doesn't quite work out the way I want it to. And as far as my plans, you will see I have not added to position yet. It's not a question of if as much as when. See, I have a lot of positions, as you guys can probably tell. And I could add another position for Verizon, but I'm aware of how many positions I own. And I don't know if I want to add a whole other one to keep track of. Now, one thing I am thinking about is I'm thinking of selling Bank of America and using the proceeds from that to buy Verizon. Now, I made a video last Friday, which you can watch here and in the description, where I go more in detail as to whether I want to sell Bank of America for Verizon or not. Watch that if you're interested. But that's my plan. As far as this, I'm long on a lot of positions, but short on a lot of others. I go long on all my whole Bank of America positions in July. But I don't know if I want to wait that long. But anyways, watch that video if you want to get the full story on that. But that's my play with it. But I think this is a pretty fantastic dividend play and a value play with one heavy risk, that risk being their debt. However, with their otherwise strong financial backing and their growth potential, especially in the 5G space, I think they're going to be just fine. But anyways, take care, have a great day, and eat your vegetables.